Hi, my name is Diana Hughes. I am VP of Product at a company called Age of Learning, where we make educational software for kids. And specifically, I work in the group that does a lot of our adaptive learning and personalized learning products. So really thinking about how do we use games to teach kids in a way that is much more effective. My background is I have a degree from USC, an MFA from the Interactive Media Group. And my specialization has always been serious games. So how do games and gameplay, how can you employ those techniques and those formats to change the world, I guess? So the big thing that happens with a serious game, I think, is that you've got this other constraint, right? So in a game, your constraint is we want people to have fun, or at least to be, I guess, to be engaged, because it's not always fun, right? Like a lot of games are very serious, like in a more mood kind of way. But in the case of a serious game in this context, you're trying to, like, I want someone to learn something. Like I want them to walk away knowing something they didn't know before, or feeling this very specific way about a real world topic that I wanted them to feel, or whatever it is. And so you have this extra constraint, and those things can be at odds with each other if you're not taking them into account. So it's very easy to get into a space where it's like, well, I really want kids to learn math, but I want them to have a good time. And so I'm going to pump this thing full of so much extrinsic rewards that it's really, really fun, but they are sure not learning anything. Or vice versa. You know, I can so heavily emphasize the math problems that the game is just a quiz engine. And so there's a lot more thought that has to go into how are you balancing your constraints so that you're getting kind of your dual goals of engagement and whatever that other thing is. Well, I go to a lot of meetings. I mean, probably 50 or 60 a week. Because I'm doing, my job is collaborating with people at this point. So, you know, you move far enough up in an org structure and it stops being about, I'm an individual contributor who makes things, whether those are design documents or code or art assets or whatever. It starts to be more about my work outcomes are people. And do they know what they're supposed to be doing and why they're supposed to be doing it? And am I empowering them to make their own choices because they understand the goals well enough that I don't need to make those choices for them? I can just say, hey, aim at that and go. So a lot of my time is about working with people who report to me, working with people who don't report to me, but who are working on a thing that I'm kind of responsible for, and making sure that everyone understands, what are we supposed to be doing? Why are we doing it? When do we need it? And if necessary, stepping in a bit with, like, how might we go about doing this kind of thing? Because I have a lot of background in serious games, and so I've done a lot of educational game design, but it was more for adult players. So, you know, training simulations for the military and things like that. And one of the things that drew me to more classic educational games, like we're going to learn about math and learn how to read and that kind of stuff, is that it's more fun. Like it's really fun to make games for kids. They're such a delightful audience to make games for, because they're not as, I don't know, they don't complain as much. They're just so excited to do everything. They don't have any misconceptions. It's really fun to make games for a player who you very well could be their first video game. And to know that like I work with a lot of people on my teams who talk about the games that they played as children that were formative experiences for them. And so it's really cool to know that the things I'm doing now, 20 years from now, somebody's going to be in a job interview somewhere saying, oh, I wanted to get into games because I played this game that's full of these characters called Shapies and I really liked it. Like, that's neat. So that was a big part of it. And I also just felt like children's education is sort of an evergreen market, right? We're never going to run out of kids, and they're always going to have to learn how to read. So there's kind of always going to be an audience for that. And that means it's going to be more stable than what a lot of serious games is, where it's very driven by, can you get a grant? Can you talk somebody into funding it? It's this very sort of hand to mouth existence. And I wanted to be able to settle into something and really dig into the problem and live with it for a while. And this gave me that opportunity. I don't think the role has changed, and if anything, the products haven't changed either. It's more the pressure, because it can feel a little bit like, you know, oh God, we're school now. Like we were supposed to be supplemental. We're supposed to be this thing you do on the side, like for practice or whatever. And now it's like, oh God, we're school. So the pressure is much higher. But in terms of what we were doing, we were already doing it. We were already thinking very hard about, we want kids to learn and we want to know that they learn. So we're going to make sure we do studies and we're going to prove that it works. You know, this isn't going to be like a learning flavored sort of thing. We wanted it to be something that kids could do on their own so they could have that agency and that independence. And that's really serving us well now, because there isn't an adult to sit next to them and make sure that they know how to play. And so that investment is paying off. But yeah, the day-to-day hasn't changed, but I think the stakes have. So adaptive games in this parlance are games that change based on what the user is telling you that they need. So the products that I work on are, for an example, my Math Academy is a product that I have. And the way that game works is we have a library of these little mini games. And what they're designed to do is we've designed the mechanics so that if you are good at the math, you will be good at the game. And if you are not good at the math, then you will not be good at the game. But there's no state where you could be like good at the game, but not good at the math. And because we've done that, the games tell us a lot about whether you're learning or not. And so if we think that you are, then we'll make the game harder, or we'll move you to a different mini game that's got a new topic in it. And if you're doing poorly, then we'll modify the game to make it easier so that you can learn at a level that's more appropriate for you. And so it means that they're very malleable. You know, the variables can change, certain features can turn on and off, depending on what the player is telling us about their current knowledge level. So that's what we say adaptive. The game and the system are modulating difficulty and even modulating topic in response to the player. That one was really, there were a number of them and they were very interesting games. I think what was cool about it was really trying to get at the heart of what is it that we want someone to know here? What are we trying to teach them? And, you know, we would get requirements from a subject matter expert in the military who would say, this is what we want people to learn. This is the best technique for whatever it is we're trying to do here. And just sort of working back and forth with someone who is a deep, deep expert at what they know, but they don't know anything about games or how games are made or what makes a good game or anything like that. And that's why they have us, and sort of working on that collaboration. It's actually really fun. And that was one of the major reasons that pulled me to educational games as a more permanent thing, is that it's really fun to work with someone who is such an expert at a thing you know nothing about. It's got to be my Math Academy. That one's my baby. I've been working on it for 6 years now. And it's, you know, we weren't just working on my Math Academy. It's the first of what hopefully will become more things, because we were trying to figure out what even is an adaptive game and how do we do any of this? And can we make a game that's also an assessment? I don't know. Let's try it. So definitely that one. And for two major reasons, I think. One, because we're doing a thing that there's no roadmap for. You know, we're building a new kind of system that doesn't really exist in the way that we want it to. And so you get to do a lot of inventing and a lot of, you know, well, no one's ever done this before, so oh, let's try this and we'll see. And, you know, it's very fun. It's very exciting. So yeah, I think that's the main thing that makes me love it. No, no. I knew that I wanted to do something that would allow me to be technical, but also creative. And that was as far as I got for a long time. And when I got to the end of my undergraduate degree, I realized, like, because I did a multimedia degree, which I don't think they even have those anymore. So let's just pretend I'm not as old as I am. But at the end of that, I sort of realized like I kind of know a little bit of a lot of things. Like I knew how to use Photoshop and I knew how to code a little bit and I could do audio a little bit, but I didn't really have a thing that I was specialized in. And so I decided to go to grad school. And I was looking at various grad programs that I just would even be qualified to be part of. And I found the USC program and it was like, oh, designing games. Wait, you can do that? Someone will pay you for that? That's a job? Okay. And so that was when I chose that path. The biggest thing that I learned was, and this is like wildly oversimplifying, so sorry in advance, all of the faculty who taught me, but I think the biggest thing that I learned was to be humble about what you do and don't know and to test, right? So you're a designer of a game, and that means you have a certain worldview about what you want your game to be and how you want your players to feel and how you want them to play. But at the end of the day, a game is a collaborative effort between you and your player, and you're not your player. And so you have to always be testing, whether that's with live analytics or with user research or doing user testing, just having a friend play it and watching what they do. You have to constantly be doing that. And I think that that really is important for all game designers, but it is especially important in a role like mine where my players aren't anything like me. This isn't me, I'm making a hardcore game and I'm a hardcore gamer and I'm making it for other hardcore gamers. This is me saying, I am going to make a 4-year-old learn how to count. I don't remember being 4. Just mentally and psychologically, a 4-year-old is not just a small 34-year-old. Like their brains are different. Their motor skills are different, their expectations are different, their worldviews are very different. So you have to test with them, because if you're just going off of what you think will be fun or what you think will make sense, you'll fail every time. And so I think that putting the player at the center and always doing that player-centric design is something that I took with me from USC that has really, really served me in my career. Let's see. I mean, definitely the player-centric approach, right? Like you really have to understand that your player is not you. And I would also say, like, make sure you're hooking up with a subject matter expert when you're doing a project, because serious games inherently, there's that other thing you're bringing in. I'm going to teach someone how to read, or I'm going to teach them about chemistry, or I want them to understand this political process better, or whatever it is. Make sure you bring in someone who's an expert in that thing, so that your focus is on how do I turn that thing into games and systems and mechanics that will get the player where we want them to go. You're going to make a much more effective game that way.